The roar of the crowd shakes the stone walls. Tens of thousands of voices echo through the Colosseum, a sea of faces leaning forward, waiting for blood. In the center, gladiators prepare for battle, bronzed skin glistening, weapons gleaming in the sun. Swords, shields, tridents, and nets, all sharpened for the kill. This is the height of Roman spectacle. Men trained to fight, to die, to entertain. The crowd demands violence. The emperor watches with pride. It is a world where honor, strength, and survival are measured in the arena. But now, imagine something else. Imagine that into this ancient sand, through some impossible twist of fate, marched a battalion of modern soldiers. Not men armed with swords, but men armed with tanks, assault rifles, grenades, and drones. Not fighters hardened by the arena, but warriors forged by centuries of technological progress. What would happen if gladiators faced modern soldiers? At first glance, the question seems absurd. The gladiator, the symbol of Rome's power and brutality against the soldier of today, equipped with the weapons of a new age. But history is shaped by mismatches. Spears once faced muskets, cavalry once charged machine guns, and each time, the old world was swept away. The gladiator steps forward, muscles tense, sword raised. He is fast, agile, trained in brutal combat. But what happens when that sword meets a rifle firing at ranges 10 times beyond his reach? What happens when courage collides with automatic fire? Let us break it down. The gladiators of Rome were highly skilled. They were not amateurs thrown into the arena. Many were trained fighters, Thracians with curved blades, Myrmiones with heavy shields and helmets, Retiari with nets and tridents. They studied tactics, learned to read opponents, and endured brutal conditioning. To the people of Rome, they were both slaves and celebrities. They fought not just for survival, but for glory. Now, set them against a modern soldier. The soldier carries an assault rifle capable of rapid automatic fire, grenades that can obliterate groups instantly, and communications gear linking him to every comrade around him. He wears body armor that can stop a sword strike. He can call in vehicles, tanks, or even drones for support. Where the gladiator is armed with bronze and steel, the soldier is armed with centuries of innovation. The clash begins. The gladiators surge forward, a wave of muscle, leather, and iron. They shout war cries, shields locked, swords raised. Dust rises from the sand beneath their sandals. For a moment, the crowd believes they will overwhelm the intruders. But then comes the sound. Not the clash of steel, but the stutter of gunfire. Bullets rip through the air, faster than any arrow, harder than any spear. The first row of gladiators falls before they can even close the distance. The audience gasps. Some scream, others are stunned by the incomprehensible machines. Never before have they seen men cut down without a blade touching them. The survivors charge harder, desperate to reach the enemy. A retiarius swings his weighted net to entangle a soldier. But before it lands, a burst of fire cuts him down. A Myrmio raises his heavy shield, running full speed, only to have it pierced and shattered in an instant. Even the mightiest gladiator, the one who has never lost, finds his armor useless against modern ballistics. It is not a contest. It is a massacre. And yet, the gladiators do not break easily. These were men conditioned to fight to the death. They would not retreat, even against impossible odds. Perhaps a few could close the distance, swinging swords or thrusting spears, hoping to strike flesh. But the soldiers are disciplined. They fight as a unit, covering fire, overlapping fields of fire, tactical maneuvers, things the gladiators could never comprehend. The arena floor would quickly be littered with bodies. What once was sport would turn into slaughter. The Colosseum, once a theater of controlled violence, would become a graveyard. But let us think deeper. Beyond the obvious outcome, what does this scenario tell us? It shows us the true scale of technological change. Rome ruled the ancient world with legions, roads, and discipline. Their military machine was unmatched in its time. And yet even the greatest empire of antiquity would crumble in minutes against modern firepower. Consider logistics. A gladiator's training took years, sometimes decades. Each one was a precious investment. Modern soldiers, though requiring training and discipline, are multiplied in effectiveness by their tools. One soldier with a rifle equals dozens of swordsmen. One tank equals hundreds. One drone circling above the arena could direct fire more accurately than an entire Roman cohort. Consider psychology. The gladiator thrives on spectacle. He fights with the roar of the crowd in his ears. His courage comes from honor and survival. The soldier fights with coordination, with strategy, with a mission larger than himself. He does not need the crowd. He needs only his comrades and his orders. Consider scale. The largest gladiatorial contests involved a few dozen, sometimes a few hundred fighters. A modern battalion is hundreds of soldiers with vehicles, artillery, and support. If they chose, they could level the Colosseum itself in minutes. But what if we expand the thought experiment further? What if Rome itself, with all its legions and legates, stood against a modern military unit? The Roman legion was the pinnacle of ancient warfare. Tight formations, disciplined ranks, deadly efficiency. Against spears, bows, and swords, they were unstoppable. Against tanks and machine guns, they would be annihilated. The same would apply to siege warfare. The Romans built catapults, battering rams, and siege towers to conquer cities. A single tank shell could do more than a week of battering. A single airstrike could flatten walls that took years to build. Even Rome's vast roads and supply lines, once the secret of their dominance, would crumble under the strain of modern mobility. Trucks, helicopters, and armored carriers move armies faster than any Roman courier. The truth is simple. The gladiator, for all his strength and bravery, is obsolete in the face of modern war. But the lesson is not only about weapons. It is about how civilizations measure power. Rome's might came from organization, discipline, and engineering. Ours comes from technology, science, and industry. Each age believes itself invincible until the next age arrives. So, what does the image of gladiators falling before rifles really mean? It is a reminder that courage alone cannot stop progress, that bravery with a sword cannot withstand a bullet, that every empire, no matter how mighty, exists only at the mercy of its tools and ideas. In the Colosseum, the crowd would fall silent. The emperor, once entertained by duels of honor, would watch in horror as his prized warriors were erased by weapons he could not understand. The sand would drink blood, but the spectacle would be gone. There would be no contest, no drama, only destruction. And when the echoes of gunfire faded, only one truth would remain. The gladiator, once the symbol of ultimate power, had been dethroned by something greater. Not strength, not skill, but the relentless march of time. History is full of such moments, when cavalry charged machine guns, when samurai met rifles, when ancient fortresses fell to cannons. Each time, the past was swept away. Each time, the future was written in fire and steel. So ask yourself, if gladiators fought modern soldiers, would it even be a fight? Or would it simply be the end of an era, crushed beneath the weight of weapons their world could never imagine? And if this clash tells us anything, it is this: technology decides destiny. The weapons of one age become the myths of the next. The sand of the Colosseum would prove it. But that leads us to another question. If the future always eclipses the past, what happens when our present is tested? What happens when today's armies face the weapons of tomorrow? Drones beyond our imagination, machines we cannot yet conceive, lasers, robotics, artificial intelligence. What if the soldiers of our age, so confident in their power, one day find themselves the gladiators, outmatched, outgunned, and obsolete?